Hi and welcome to Inside's Industry Immersion Series. In this series, you will meet data scientists from all across the world as they come and discuss what's trending in the data science and AI space. Let's begin today's episode of Industry Immersion with yet another speaker.
In our panel talks with experts in data science, we also have an attendee whose name is Matangi. So,
Okay.
yeah, warm welcome to all the Matangis out here. So especially Matangi, who's one of the most popular faces in data science back here in India. A little brief about Matangi. She's currently heading she's currently the head of data science at PhonePe. That's the wallet that is devised at Flipkart. So it is one of the most popular wallets being used in India currently. And yes, we are very glad to have somebody with such a great background in data science with us today. So Matangi, I wouldn't take much of your time. Initially, I would really want you to speak to the audience. Quickly give a little brief about yourself, and if you may also enable the video. So I think the video should be, it's enabled. Yeah, great.
Yeah, sorry, the dolls that you see are my daughters. So. Yeah. So hi, good morning, everyone, and thanks, Sujit, for having me here. And it's a pleasure to meet all of you in the morning. I have around 15 years of experience in data science. I have around 10 plus patent grants in this area. I have been part of various organizations, starting up the data science practice there, setting up the data science roadmap, etc. Currently, I'm leading the data science at PhonePe. I'm also pretty active in the community. I'm involved with a few academic institutes on setting up their curriculum, as well as, I also deliver lectures as part of them. Apart from that, I do attend various conferences across the country. That's about myself, and some of the things that I've worked, if I have to go a little deeper into it, are so I have an expertise on interpositioning. I have an expertise on building predictive models for financial domain. I also have a deep domain expertise on customer service vertical. That was with 24/7. I spent quite some time there. So I'm also I've built several chatbots, part of deployments of enterprise level chatbots, and then I have also an understanding, and I've been part of some of the data science applications in e-commerce as well. And I'm an MBA by education, engineer, and an MBA by education. And my family, I have a daughter. She's 8 years old, and that's where you see all these, the teddy bears around. And that's about it. So that's about myself.
Awesome. So yeah, I think that's quite an elaborate explanation about your past, and definitely we love the dolls behind you. They're very cute. So getting started, Matangi, today's session, as everybody knows and is aware of it, it's more about me asking you a few questions which are very popular in the data science space.
Sure.
A lot of folks who are here in the Insight community, plus a lot of people outside Insight also have joined in today, close to 300 participants if you see. Yeah.
Sure.
So a lot of them have this common set of questions. Obviously, I can't take one at a time, right? I can't take everybody's question one at a time. So what we did was we accumulated a lot of these questions. And if you may allow us, we can start with our very first question. So I'll have a set of, say, 10 to 12 questions for you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Matangi. So first question. So before we actually get into any deeper talks of data science, you have quite a bit of experience in data science, and you have started your journey from 24AI being the director, and then you moved to different companies where you actually changed over your roles of implementing data science, and then you came into PhonePe to set it up altogether. So you have been repeating few of these things multiple times, right? How to set up the entire data science company. So can you briefly walk us through what was this entire journey all about? And how did your experience back in 24/7 really help you accumulate this knowledge across different companies?
24/7, I did not set up a data science team, but I did set up the text mining team in 24/7. 24/7, the company is into conversational experiences, right? So what it means is, let's say you talk to an IVR or you talk to a agent, right? The conversation behind it and the interaction it makes the bridge between the consumers and the enterprises easier, right? So they own the customer experience of it. So in that customer experience portion of it, there are tons of chat and voice interactions that we have, right? So 24/7 is big into text mining, because that's how you know what the customers want, that's how you know how the human agents are talking to the customers, and that led us to build a product like chatbot. But anyway, that was my start of the journey of setting up teams, aligning with a roadmap, or initiating a roadmap on my own, etc. So I learned quite a bit. So this happened at least 8 years back, is when I started setting up a text mining team in 24/7. So even today we find a lot of lack of talent in that area. So it was even more difficult there. So what we did was we went ahead with a bunch of freshers from Triple IT Hyderabad, and then that's how we kind of started this practice and see what the clients want, and what we could do to improve customer experiences from the interactions. And we and slowly this kind of things we did, once we had enough products that could run on text mining, then we kind of expanded, got senior talent in the team, and got value with it, right? So from around 8 years back, the hype so much is not there as of today. There's a lot of talk about data science, etc. But back then it was still a very cutting edge work that we were doing, and the talent pool was even more limited. So I thought that could be even more challenging than building a data science team today.
Great. So considering you started this text mining team back there in 24/7.
Yeah.
So what kind of products or solutions did you devise back then using text mining?
So we had a product fundamentally which observes. So like I'll again do a double click into the 24/7 business model, right? So the company has a lot of interactions that were collected over years. So what we wanted to find out was how to improve an agent customer interaction with these corpuses of chat, right? So these are corpuses where somebody is saying hi, I have a problem with my billing, or I have my can you give me a waiver, I missed paying my bill, or somebody says how do I pay my bill, or what are the products you have. So those are the questions that company asks the customer service agent through chat, and these are the huge chat corpuses we used to mine, and we used to bring in a lot of products, a lot of empowerment and experiences, right? So for example, we had a product which was which used to tell us which agents are doing well in certain chat area, and which agents are not doing well. Some agents may be skilled in handling a bill explanation kind of a query, and some agents may be better off handling a technical query, right? So like my modem is not working, for example, right? So what is going on? Who are your best agents? Who are your not so good agents? What should the good agents do to improve, right? These are, and also I ended up filing several patents in this area. One such patent is, can we match the characteristics of a user who is chatting with the customer service agent to the characteristics of the agent itself, right? Can there be a match, and hence can we match them based on the based on each other's profile? So this was an area where I got to innovate quite a bit, and the organization was welcoming a lot of innovation. And we were experimenting a lot with data and a lot with technology. So some of these models which were built on text mining and were predictive went real time on some of these products, right? So even now, like if you have to go real time, real time models are still not the norm in the industry, right? A lot of things run on batch, but these were real time text mining models which was running as the agent was typing to the customer.
Awesome. I see a lot of useful applications by just understanding text. So beautiful. So Matangi, what I'll do is I'll move on to the next question, which is around your challenges that you faced. So considering you started the space quite early, like you were there when India wasn't even, when India was trying to grasp with the idea of data science, they had no idea about what is data science. You started very early. So what were the major challenges that you faced as an individual while implementing data science at work?
So the challenges, interestingly, like, I started my career in Genpact, right? Working, in fact, I started in GE Consumer Finance, then became Genpact. I joined GE Consumer Finance, and I was working for GE Consumer Finance in the US, right? And US is a mature market. I think the credit bureau in US came towards 1890s or something. It's that old, right? Like our credit bureau, CRISIL, came somewhere in early 2000s, right? And US credit bureau was there in 1890 or something. Around 1960, they had the Fair Price Act, where they started regulating, they started regulating how should the data be used. That must be their first challenge of data privacy and how data can be used and data regulations, etc. That was 1960. So I joined, somewhere in 2004, right? So now, by the time I went that market, US had a very mature credit, modeling systems in place. So, mature as in, people were believing data-driven decisions. People were, for example, a similar example in India around 2007, 2008, I had this experience that you apply for a credit card, they'll call you. If you pick up the call, then, they'll give you a card. And if you don't get the card, right? And so the credit market in US was very, very mature. So it was those days, I don't think anybody was called data scientists, at least as far as my knowledge. People were called, statisticians was the go-to similar kind of profile, or, an analytics, analytics manager, analytics consultant. Those were the kind of designations out there. It was good learning that systems, because I started my career doing the the hard work, which is about data reporting, data analysis, looking data as data. Today, a lot of time in data science, you don't look data as data, right? You just get the data, put them in the a bunch of feature engineering, close your eyes, do the feature engineering, and close your eyes, build the algorithm, right? So it gave me a lot of discipline towards numbers, towards understanding numbers, towards the sensitivity of what a 1% difference could matter in a default rate, right? If the default rate is 2.5% and you report it to be 2.75%, it hell breaks loose, right? And that's the amount of dollars that you were dealing with. There was a Walmart account or something which we were working on, and if I'm not wrong, they used to have some 3 million transactions a day. So it was pretty big, even crunching that number those days. So I had a lot of learning in terms of fundamentally getting rooted in the data science industry, which is being very truthful to the data at hand, being very truthful to the business at hand, and they come foremost at the top, and you got to be extremely cognizant about what you are doing, right? And from there, and that is the time, we were also building predictive models. These were decision tree based predictive models. The fundamental reason why you build a decision tree model was people can understand it, right? So there are cuts, there are income buckets, there are age buckets, and then you can understand these cuts. So the business could relate to it, saying that yes, the model is working. Now we go ahead and actually deployed these models again real time. Of course, there were limitations to it. We're not talking about a huge architecture of neural network kind of thing. It's a simple if then else rule, which was built by data using a statistical model, right? So that was there. But from there, so India, for example, the Indian consumer companies and Indian companies started respecting data. I was 24/7 is incorporated in the US, but their development center that time was only in Bangalore, right? So in technology development center, I mean, not the call center. So even then they had a huge, again, I was fortunate to be part of that company. They had a huge focus of data. They were believing data driven decisions. We were trying to use data to drive customer experience. So that the difference I saw is there was more maturity as the years have gone by. There's more maturity in terms of two things. One, in terms of questioning a black box. There is a lot of maturity in terms of accepting a black box as a black box. Though you try to see at the end of it, after building a data science model, even if it can be an explanatory AI, things like that, which is coming up now, you are still at some point trying to reverse engineer the black box and see what it says. But the building of the black box is what the algorithm does. Whereas in a decision tree, that's not how it is. Even when you are building, you are seeing which node it is, and then you're clicking, and then you are making a choice actively whether you want to build the node or you are not want to build the node. That was a practice like at least 10-12 years back, right? So there is a lot of maturity in terms of respecting a black box. That's number one. That is something I've seen evolved over the time. And the second thing that has also happened is humongous amount of data out there, right? So earlier people used to ask, hey, why should we capture this data, right? Today, as long as it's within the privacy, data privacy and things like that, there is no fundamental question of, hey, should we put engineering time in capturing a data, right? There is a lot of maturity in understanding that we should log data, right? For a data science model to be built later on, we should start the journey as early as possible. And also there is a lot of respect in terms of understanding, it's a black box at the end of the day. You should not apply human intuition on top of it. As long as you are able to show results, it's within test and validation sets, within a bunch of agreed way of figuring out whether the model works or not. So there is maturity there, and there is also a lot of enthusiasm, thanks to the word that gets created around. There are a lot of enthusiasm that a lot of organization wants to hit data science as early as possible. It's not like they want to hit data science 2 years after they have built their core product, etc. They want to start data first. So and it may not even be in think about Google is the pillar of Google is data, right? Without data science, there is no Google. But I'm talking about companies where, for example, a food delivery company or anything. It's not like, they need to start data on day zero, but they've all understood the importance of it. And companies have started jumping into the data science journey much early in their in their career, and big companies like the banks and insurance companies, they've also kind of understood what they have been missing out. Though they have been collecting data, though they have been having a lot of data, they've not been processing the data or not have been using the latest algorithms and so on and so forth, but they also have kind of want to start the journey ASAP. So it's an awesome time to be in the industry. I've seen the rough patches of it, and but it's a great time to be part of this and making a difference to really the consumer lives at large.
True. So I think even I would agree on this point that data has evolved. People's appreciability towards data has changed. The mindset that people had long back. Today, collection of data is not very difficult. Back then, I certainly understand you started off from a place where you did not have access to too much of data, but then somehow you were able to evolve and build better products. But yes, I agree with Matangi on this point too, that today, I think we are in one of the best places to be at, because today world has evolved a lot in the data science space. Data is pretty wide. It's pretty much available right out there for you, and you collecting it and analyzing it has become all the more easier today. So that's great insight, Matangi. So Matangi, the next question that I would like to ask you. So this question is around your experience or your time at NanoLocal. So you set up the data science practice. So slowly I'm trying to transition into the idea of data science. How do I get into data science? How do I learn data science? How do managers use data science? So this is where we are trying to head to next. So yes. I'll start with the first question around, what do you think are the best practices that you would advise managers to follow when they're starting off data science in their very own companies? Considering India is very naive in data science right now, a lot of companies are started data science. So what is your recommendation to them?
Right. So, yeah, with a lot of buzz around this, it's a very relevant question. See, in NanoLocal, data science was the core of it. It was an indoor positioning product that we were building. Uh, so it can recognize people's location without the GPS being on by using a bunch of signals. It's an area that we have patented. The core, of course, the core algorithm of it was built by me, and then I did the lot of groundwork there, and then I started building a team, who are very dedicated, again, who have a lot of sense of business and data. So that's anytime I build a team, that's the first thing I look out. I look out for people with a core understanding of data, who respect the business context, and then the algorithm, right? And so that's the kind of team we build. Now, if your question is about, hey, how can managers set up data science team? So, or I would even start with when founders are starting data science practices in their company, and when they're looking for data science talent, I see few misses there. So let's say you have the right budget for a data science team, on the right thought process in place, then my idea would be to look first for a senior talent in the industry, rather than getting started with not so a person not so used to data science, or hasn't have enough experience in data science, right? The reason being, the company needs a vision, the company needs a charter on how they can think about data science. And given there is a lot of hype about, hey, this can be done, that can be done, there is a magic box out there, there is also a lot of a reality check that needs to be done. And hence, somebody who has enough years of experience could possibly get into a consultation with the founders or whoever, and say that, hey, this is what is possible and this is not what is possible, and in order of priority, these are the things that the company should look at, and more importantly, the data that they should capture starting early on, right? So, and hence, if you're a founder, and if you're a startup person kind of trying to set up a team, start with a senior lead at the top. So who could kind of, who not only, like, again, I'm not mandating experience and things like that, but it is fairly important that the person has managed people, has also worked on various kinds of projects, and was able to convince a lot of stakeholders into taking a data science project. So that's the kind of talent you need to look at least one person who could lead that should be a person who has implemented data science solutions at scale across various organizations. There is a perception, that hey, I get the best PhD from the best institute, I'm sorted, and a lot of founders do reach out to me, for consulting and things like that. So I do, tell them one thing, that hey, look for a practitioner, look for somebody who's been in the industry, look for someone who has deployed and worked with organizations to deploy data science solutions, right? That's more important than an academician that you want. I don't have anything against academicians, but for a role like setting up a practice, given the reason is, anytime you build a data science model, let's say you take a month to build it, or you take 2 months to build it, it is double or triple the time for the solution to go live. And it is not because of an implementation problem, or it is not because of some other bottleneck that comes in. There is a lot of education a data scientist needs to do across the organization, so that people understand the value that the data science brings. See, fundamentally, let's say when IT was replacing tasks, right, when automation was the goal, like let's say a ticketing system was automated, or or some sales inventory process was automated, it was an automation that was going. Yeah, it costed people some jobs, but as long as you were talking to guys a little above, guys at the top, it wasn't a lot of push that you had to do, right? But what data science fundamentally tries to do is, it to a level takes away the decisioning of human beings to a black box unknown, and nor can you understand the black box, right? So there is that is the problem today. right? It is not as simple as automating and I'm people can understand, okay, X number of man hours saved, and then boom, that you go for the project, right? It's not that. It's that, hey, till now I was targeting in a certain way certain people. Now I'm saying I'm going to take that targeting engine and I'm going to put it in the black box. Nor people understand the meaning. It's difficult to understand the black box, even for some of the highly talented people also. It's very difficult to explain the black box, and then and on top of it, the model is going to take the decisioning power away from you, and that could cost the company millions of dollars, right? So it's a practice that questions the fundamental way human beings have been thinking, and hence it requires a person to have lot of maturity and lot of experience, who could do this, right, and who has seen how to do this. So your emotional quotient has to be high, right, for someone who's especially setting up the practice and all that. And even in a team, it kind of gets very important depending on the maturity of the organization. People need to be a little more patient, and people have to have a lot of perseverance for some of these models to go live, because you do understand that, hey, at the end of it, I've built something, doesn't mean people have to take it up and swallow it, right? You are trying to question a human decision process at every point in time, and and for that, and people have to accept this, and they have to think about user experience, and say money loss, etc. And hence it's especially important that people in the data science team also are mature enough to understand that there is a human element to this algorithm, there is a human element for these models to go live. So hence the maturity of teams, especially when you're starting a practice, is extremely important. For already in a place where where there are all tons of analytics happening, where people are rolling out, I know such places where in a week it some 30 models go live, right? So in such process, you can go, you can experiment, right? You can look at people more algorithmic, and people more people more into algorithm rather than having a standard human quotient of selling the models. Selling the models is very important, especially you're setting up a data science practice. You are doing a lot of marketing, you're doing a lot of socializing with your models. You are you are kind of taking the AI solution to the business, and that's a fundamental responsibility of somebody who's leading these practices. And hence that maturity of the team is also important, and kind of realizing that there is an human angle to it is also very important. I took a long time to answer this question.
No, I totally appreciate it. This is a very important answer that you gave. And this reflects about data leaders. I mean, if I just got to concise your answer, I think I would use the word data leaders, right? So these are the people who understand the data science space, they understand data science, they understand data, and they also understand how to sell it to their customers, right?
Yeah.
Because in today's world, I think a lot of people speak about it, but they are not very well versed to explain it to people. So that's something which I truly appreciate from your angle, the way you put it forward to all of us. So this was about the managers setting up the team very first, like initially.
Yeah.
How about managers who are already working in a data science project and the people who will form the team, the people with lesser years of experience? How about all of them?
Yeah.
So if you can speak about the different categories.
Sure. So I would divide, data scientists as a full stack data scientist who could full stack starts, in my opinion, from the point of understanding business, right? Again, the maturity to understand data, the maturity to understand business, plus the depth in algorithm, and plus the depth in technical implementation, right? Technical coding, which is Python and R and things like that, makes, in my mind, a full stack data scientist. So if it's a startup, then you would want to have few of the full stack data scientists in your team, plus a set of junior data scientists whom you see the spark and potential, who could be tuned into these full stack data scientists later on, right? So that would be the team composition. If it's a startup, right? If it's a company that's kind of trying to set up the data science, etc. But if it is an organization which is very mature, there personally I don't see a reason why freshers should not be encouraged. People who can be tested and who seem to have a lot of potential in the nuances of data science, which is data, algorithm, and the Python or R bit of it, or Scala, whatever, right? So in a mature organization, I would assume that there could be a lot of experimentation you could do in terms of getting fresh talent there, and possibly in a startup the number of such talent could be lesser, and you would want to keep more mature people in the team. That's how I would look at it.
So yeah, I think we got to kind of reiterate on this point. It's more about talent. Talent can come from anywhere. So as long as somebody has the potential and exposes that, yes, I'm capable of something, I don't see why a big company or even a startup wouldn't want to hire them. So yeah,
Sure.
thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for that. So let's move on to the next question. So how is your current organization, so PhonePe, how are you leveraging on AI? So we understood what 24/7 did, but going beyond what 24/7 did, how about PhonePe? How is PhonePe leveraging AI right now?
So the core of PhonePe is about users, right? So we are using AI big time in driving user personalization, right? We don't want to spam customers. We want to remind customers for a payment, for example. We want to make sure that the customers kind of transact across all the categories that is there out in PhonePe, and start looking at PhonePe as a one-stop solution for all their needs. And hence data personalization and taking the customer through the entire journey of their life cycle, where they explore different offerings in PhonePe, is very core to what we are working on. So if I have to just define what we are doing in PhonePe, without divulging a lot of details, we are working towards user personalization big time in PhonePe, right? How do I prompt the right customer at the right point in time, and give the right inducements to the right customer to try out various offerings in PhonePe, and also how do we keep growing the customer based on the customer's needs and based on the customer's interests. How can we cross leverage his user behavior across different product categories, and how can we personalize this whole experience for the customer? That's the big one that we are doing at PhonePe. And of course, this is a big problem statement. We are kind of trying to break it down into various categories, like electricity for recharge, travel tickets and Ola booking and things like that. So the solution would shape up in different forms for each of these verticals, but at an overall level, this is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, so I think machines can help us in customizing almost for every audience. You can uniquely customize your products. So I think that's a great stuff that PhonePe is doing currently. Obviously, we'll keep a watch on what PhonePe is doing in the market. We do use the app, and we'll keep it a point to see what you are implementing anytime soon.
Sure.
So now let's speak very India focused. So since you are heading one of the biggest companies here in India, which is doing quite well in the AI data science space, what is your take on India regarding the future of AI back here at India?
So I am very gung-ho about India being in AI. I'm very proud of the fact that we have caught up the race, and we are doing pretty well. One is, of course, the phenomenal amount of data we have for the population. We go. So I don't know how many of you have seen the visualization where it says that how India picked up on the internet market, right? So the US was there for the last 40-50 years, and then India suddenly picks up and comes next to China at the top, right? So it's extremely interesting to be part of this journey, and I think India has tremendous potential when it comes to AI. You can see a lot of companies setting up their AI practices here, including Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, and Microsoft, and the AI Walmart labs and things like that. If there's the host of companies which are setting up their first technology center in Bangalore. So it kind of proves the amount of talent that this market has, especially Bangalore. It's a huge talent out here, so which is also being supported by a lot of academic institutions like there's a lot of focus being given on AI, and a lot of people want to shift to this AI, so that is also adding more to them talent pool in this market. We are doing great, and I'm sure we will be doing great. There are only few places in the world which does AI. One is San Francisco Bay Area, of course. Some parts in China, and we are doing it in some places possible in Israel, right? And to be part of this small great community, it's really awesome, and I would love to see India more and more taking a big footprint on AI.
Awesome. I think we all resonate the same idea that India is on a positive note towards AI.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think can I also infer? Would it be wrong of me to infer that in India the jobs are going to increase in AI?
Sure, absolutely, it's going to increase. Absolutely, it's going to increase. A tech shop, wherever it is set, is going to have a base in India. Definitely, it is going to have a base in India, and
we expect big companies to also put up their shops out here in India.
Yeah, they've already put up. It's only going to expand.
Absolutely.
So the tech shops, if you talk to them, they're always talking about extending. Trying to get some of the cooler technologies like self-driving cars and things like that. Made here, right? In terms of the engine for that made here.
Right. Awesome. So yeah, in India, I think we are all very positive about the job market becoming really big. And obviously, considering that data science wasn't something that was very prevalent, and expecting people to have 15 years of data science experience on their resume, that's wrong. So
I totally agree with you. Like some of the job descriptions, sometimes the people reach out to me saying, do you have reference, etc. Right? And the job description looks ridiculous for me. So for example, people ask, hey, 8 years or 10 years of deep learning experience. Dude, 10 years of deep learning, nobody was practicing. Yeah, deep learning existed maybe in the 90s or late 80s, yeah. Right? But that doesn't mean it was being practiced. The companies have started adopting maybe in the last 3-4 years, and saying experience in deep learning, for 10 years, that sounds really ridiculous. You're not going to, you're writing a JD which is meant to fail, right? Absolutely. And so I think there is also, there needs to be even people who are not very hands-on in this field, but who are decision makers also need to understand a little bit of the field, I believe, given there is a lot of things going around about deep learning and things like that. They need to understand what is at the core of deep learning to say that, hey, you need 10 years of experience in deep learning. I don't understand why. And so otherwise you have that level of data in the company, or you're trying to do some voice to text or some kind of image processing. If neither of these is there, then deep learning being a criteria with how many ever years of experience in the job description itself is a questionable thing. Yeah, so the talent pool is limited, especially the north of 7 years. It's really difficult. The 7+ years itself is very difficult to get in this field, which is understandably there. Yeah. But what I have seen is, so suppose you want to see people with higher experience bucket, then a good chunk of their experience could be on something else other than data science, and that's because they kind of bring that maturity, and then they kind of migrate to data science. Or people who have started their career in analytics, they're a very good fit. Let's say somebody did 2 years of experience in analytics and then maybe a couple of years in data science. They in my opinion, they're an awesome combination. Like the statistics, the data, reporting and things like that, but then now the machine learning part of it, and that's to me a very awesome combination to go for.
Absolutely. So yeah, so it's more about every level of the company being knowledgeable enough about data science. That is step one.
Yes.
And step two is how do you kind of exhibit it? So at the very top level, you should make sure that everything is in the right place. You can't expect 10 years plus deep learning experts in your company. So
Just
it starts
doesn't
from the top.
just doesn't add. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So going to the next one, for a company starting data science, which a lot of Indian companies are doing right now, first things I got the idea that you should choose the right data leader. Now, from the data perspective, what would you recommend? How do you choose the right data and how do you kind of accumulate it?
Sure. So no data is a wrong data, right? Unless otherwise you're not violating some privacy and stuff like that. If you're in the data governance bucket, no data is a wrong data. Every data is the right data. So go capture it. Don't ask how will you use the data. Just capture it, right? It is worth investing in these big systems. Don't even if it means a lot of money and uh, kind of contributes a good chunk of your burn. I think it's worth it. Just capture data. That's number one. Number two is possibly pick out areas where there can be easier wins to start this data science journey, right? Possibly things which can be fairly automated, and you think the decision making is not changing your entire paradigm and you are very doubtful about it. So things could be based on supervised learning or something. So if company is offering credit, then credit underwriting, can you just make it from manual to a to a data science driven process. That's number two. Number three is, so start simple and start with projects that you can digest, right, with data taking over. And the third thing is the most important thing: build a system in which you can experiment, right? So you have to have a system engineering infrastructure that can experiment, test versus control, and current system versus the DS system, etc. So these are fundamental blocks, right? You capture all the data and you build an experimental system. So this will set you a lot further in the journey. And the third thing is start simple. And then the fourth thing is, if it is possible, develop a maturity on how to evaluate a data science model, right? So you are, whether you have consultants at the early stage, or you are starting the journey with an outside consultant who's going to help you, or you're going to set up your in-house data science team. The most important thing is develop a maturity to understand how data science is done, right? So you in an engineering process, I'm just taking engineering because I think I'm talking about a lot of tech startups, right? So in an engineering organization, what happens is there is a specification and you build to a specification, and you can test the specification, you can see the app, you can feel it, or if it's a voice company, you can hear the voice, right? But in data science, the impact is not about how it is done, but what it does. That's how you can, unfortunately, understand the impact, right? How much ever a black box is there, how much ever you try to explain a black box, the ultimate success of a data science model, the only way to substantially understand is to train and test and do a lot of out of sample, out of time validation, etc. And not go through this path of trying to get inside the black box and see that, hey, can I change this, can I change that, can this be done and that be done, right? Then you are kind of taking away the power of decisioning from the algorithm, and you may not even have done it. So that would be, if that can be done, that would be the maturity to the understanding how to see whether the data science model works or not work, the framework for it, if that can be evaluated differently than evaluating an engineering product, that is the right way to possibly start the data science journey.
Awesome. So yeah, you can't have a one size fit all model. So you have to think everything in isolation.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think one important point that you mentioned, which resonates quite well with Dr. Kirkborn, he was our previous expert talk in the last month. So he also resonated the same idea that you just mentioned: start small but thinking big. Right? I think this is something that a lot of data scientists think inherently. They're not taught about it, but they think in this way, that you should start small, and over a period you should build on bigger things.
Yes.
So I think totally I agree with that point too. And this is a few important insights, friends. Please note down these ideas that Matangi is sharing with all of us. Tons of information. comes to the more important question, which the audiences have been waiting for a very long time.
Yeah.
How do I start as a data scientist? So
Even I was looking at when is this question coming? Because this is a common question that I get asked wherever I talk or meet people. Like I said, so I know a lot of people are transitioning into the industry. So I will try to answer this in few ways. So let's say you are a student in a college, which is already a tech institute like IIIT, IIT and things like that. And then you have a campus placement, or you are trying to apply as an intern in a company. Then my recommendation in that case would be reach out to as many people in LinkedIn as possible. Try to show what you have done. Now, what you have done is an important thing. Like, pick up a project that has real meaning to real business. If you can get a real data, that's awesome. But I know a lot of companies don't want to give real data for violating the privacy laws and things like that. But if you could scrape something from the internet, or if there is some data available, your friend is telling some data, whatever, right? So if you can go and pitch yourself to somewhere and get some data and build some models out of it, you have an edge. If you build any AI solution on a real data, and for a real problem that a company is facing, you are straight high up on the list of succeeding into this field. That's number one, and that applies both for freshers who's shifting into this field, or people who have got enough experience and then they are shifting into the field. For people who have got enough experience, maybe the first place you should look at is your current organization to make the shift. After you have had the enough skill sets, etc., you could pitch to your current organization itself and say that, hey, I can do this for you, in my spare time or whatever, 20% of the time I can intern as a in your org as a data scientist, and then try to build something of value to you. So that's an opportunity that you get. Try to make a shift within an organization if it is possible, because that's the fastest way to make a move to the data science field. Of course, provided you have done the basics, which is doing your machine learning courses, doing your Python and R kind of coding stuff, and also have gone through at least some of the data sets on the internet, and you're able to solve some of these problems, have participated in few hackathons. If all this basics is done, all these basics is common both for freshers as well as people getting into the laterally into this field. For people laterally get into the field, you have a huge opportunity within your organization. Just go check out if they are ready to take you, and you could tell them that I would take a small project and deliver, and then maybe relatively not so sensitive project you could work on and then show some results, and maybe that could be a way to get in. For freshers, you have to go the LinkedIn route of hunting a lot of people. If you're not getting through placements, you reach out to a lot of people, tell them the kind of projects that you have done, and then do it. One thing, try to avoid things like object detection problem and that object detection that comes every day in LinkedIn. So a lot of people are bored seeing it. So keep your problem, and I don't have anything against object detection. I'm just saying it's a very repetitive thing, that there is a code out there and you're just snapping the code, copying the code and then running something. The value of it is very less. You can do it for learning's sake, but if you have to project yourself, it has to be for a real problem and for a real data set. There has to be some business intuition to it. And again, coming to lateral, if the organization switch is not possible, then I'm sure there are a lot of institutes in India which could possibly help them, either figure out a right path to a company, or they could get you some interactions from the companies itself. So that could be another way to look at it. So if you're not on your own, you could be part of some of the online courses or full-time course, etc., and then see if you can shift into the data science field.
I think that's a comprehensive answer to this very common question, that how do I transition into data science? Yeah. I hope, friends, this gives you a fair idea what it takes to move into data science. But at the crux of it, it's all about how do you first learn a topic, how do you implement it, and then how do you showcase. So I think beautifully put up by Matangi. And friends, This is a question that I've been seeing a lot of people putting it up continuously, but I hope now all of you are clear with the idea that yes, get started and showcase what you're capable of. So we already discussed this, that the job market in India is very, very positive right now, and it's only going to grow in the future. So let's skip this question. Let's say if I were to start my career in data science, what is the best way forward? Now, this also, I think you partially already answered it. But let's say from the perspective of doing projects, object detection, yes, I totally agree with you. It's boring now. Everybody's copy pasting the same code, just they're changing from a bottle, maybe they're changing from a bottle to a mobile phone now. So yeah, we don't want that. But what are the other things that you might want to kind of highlight, which will really put us in good lights? What kind of projects?
Okay. Okay, let me take a step back and answer this question. It is not if I were to start, I read this question to me, to myself. So it is like generally somebody asking if I were to start my career, what is the best way forward? That's what you're asking, right?
Yes. So if I want to start, and as per your recommendation, I start studying. Okay. I do a lot of pet projects, but I'm still confused. What are the right pet projects? Because I was very happy to copy paste some object detection code, but now Matangi just told me, okay, you can do better. So what are the better things that you would suggest me or recommend me?
Sure. So in my view, I see I see the industry in 4 tracks. Okay. One is the consumer-facing machine learning projects. Number 2 is your image processing kind of projects, and then you have NLP as a third type of third type of division in data science, and the fourth one is voice to text, right? So these are the 4 areas I see data science evolving in, and the expertise being gained in. And the 4 boxes that I said have expertise in itself, right? So it takes that level of experience to have an expertise in each of these 4 boxes. And even if you take a voice to text thing, you need to know the typical features, the audio features and audio mining, digital signal processing, all that you need to know, right? If you similarly take an image processing, you need to understand the nuances of image processing and things like that, right? Now, coming back to where most of the jobs out there are, they are for the first bucket, which is consumer facing machine learning projects. And what do I mean by it is your normal day-to-day data problems, right? Which is possibly a retention model or predicting what is the customer going to transact next, for example, or recommendation systems, or things like there is there's an inventory management problem in a company, and then how do you solve the inventory optimization of it? So it has to be a data, structured data as your variables, or independent or dependent. That problems are the reason I say that it's better to it depends on your interest. If you have interest in image processing and if you have interest in natural language processing, it makes sense to do a project there. But given that most of the jobs are in first bucket, which is where the structured data problems are there, then you could pick up projects on sales prediction model, retention prediction model, risk prediction model, fraud models, forecasting, things like I said, inventory optimization, or price optimization kind of models. Now, where do you get these data sets? Where are these models there? That's a fair question. Now, there's no answer to that. If you see, of course, there is enough data sets out there on Kaggle and things like that, and I'm talking away from that, right? I'm talking about real data sets, which means some organization really has a problem, and you get an audience with the person who has the problem to talk about the problem. Now, that if you could manage that, there you could position your CV pretty well, right? What is the harm in using a Kaggle dataset, for example? In there, if you look at the data science life cycle, or how you implement a data science project in a company, 40 to 50% of the time we are only discussing about the problem and trying to convert it into a technical solution. So that 40 to 50% is just lost when you just pick up a data set offhand from Kaggle. That is the problem, right? So that is why at least I keep stressing with the people whom I interview, or people who ask career advice from me, that I tell them that take a very, very meaningful problem. It may be a smaller data set. It may be like, only 2000 rows or 3000 rows, doesn't matter. What matters is your interaction, your back and forth that you would go with the business owner. Now that experience is what is missing when you only take a Kaggle data set. So if there is a way, like, possibly freelancer.in or possibly, Upwork or some website like that where people are throwing problems at you, possibly you could pitch for one of these problems and try to solve it. I don't know how feasible it sounds to people, or it could be your neighbors, or it could be, somebody out there with the problem who's ready to share it with you, who's ready to sit and explain the problem with you, and whom you have at least 3-4 cycles of interaction on. Okay, this is the problem. Okay, so for example, right, somebody may say, hey, my sales is not going up, what can be done, right? That's a very, very, that is how any problem starts, and it is at such a single line Uber level. Then you kind of see what data is there. Then you think, okay, if this is your sales problem, maybe this is how I will solve it. And then you collect the data and then you start the modeling process. Now, if in any resume, in the first few steps can be shown, that would be a great advantage when there are so many resumes with the same set of skill sets coming out. Now, I may sound very unpractical or whatever, but this can be done. It could be a very big edge for anyone to get a job.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of the education companies, they are trying their effort, their level best to kind of make it more practical. So I think something like capstone projects where you start off with a problem statement, you start with the company facing a certain problem, and eventually how do you go across different steps to solve this problem statement for this particular company. I think that these kinds of projects really make sense, right?
Right. Absolutely, it makes sense. And if those capstone projects could have multiple cycles, right? Like, so it is not like I told you a problem and that's about it, right? So let's say I say that, hey, build a recommender system. Now, what is the recommender system should do? Why are you even building a recommender system? How should we measure it? What should it evolve like? What data we have? What data we don't have? It's a discussion, right? And that discussion is what shapes the project. So there's a huge consulting layer in any data science work, right?
Absolutely.
And even if you're starting your career, it's important you get a hang and a flavor of the consulting.
Absolutely. So you actually get to learn how to ask the right questions.
Yes. And also how to frame the right problem, and also how to get the right data for it.
Awesome. Thank you. So since you actually hire a lot of folks, what are the common resume mistakes that you observe? One you already mentioned.
Quite a bit. So given that, somebody like me who is kind of hands-on, also kind of wearing multiple hats of managing a team, working with stakeholders, etc., scanning through, a lot of resumes, you want to get to the point fast, right? Highlight your years of experience. That's number one. For God's sake, do that. Don't expect somebody to count from 2008 to 2010, 2010 to 2012, like that. Go and then count it's really cumbersome. Get your potential out there, right? Get in few lines. What are you? What do you mean? Not every data scientist is the same, right? So possibly your key areas of expertise could be highlighted. Your years of experience could be highlighted. Then your education and things like that. But what I look for in a resume, which I don't get, is years of experience only takes me time. Then I'm not able to figure out, hey, this person is hands-on or not, if it is after a certain layers of experience. Have you managed a team, or is that what you're looking at, or you're trying to be an individual contributor? Because today the jobs are spread across everything. There are people who are team managers, and hands-on. There are people who are only hands-on and never want to go to the path of it. It's the kind of career path or something that you're looking at. And your areas of expertise. Are you an expertise? What are your areas of expertise? Have you spoken to clients, for example? Have you done client management? Have you worked with product managers? Who are your typical stakeholders? Could also be an interesting thing to look in a resume for a well experienced resume. If it is a fresher, then definitely fresher, I mean fresher as lateral also, definitely highlight in the past experience, how many of that you would count as a data experience. May not be machine learning models, but how much of that would be a data experience? Give me a split of years of experience into various things. So if I say that, I'm 5 years of experience now, maybe 3 years of it was, into data, and 2 years is, into proper machine learning, etc. Make that little bit obvious for the resumes to be scanned.
So yeah, so I believe few of the common mistakes that they do is one, not putting up their experience right at the top.
Yes,
They
right
would
at the
be
top.
expecting that people are going to calculate it for them.
Yeah.
That's a very obvious mistake. The second one could be putting up what your capabilities are. So highlighting it right at the top will make it a lot more easier for the reviewer to understand that what should I judge this person upon.
Yeah, instead of putting child, XGP, decision tree, it makes more sense if you say, hey, what are your expertise? So you're an expertise, you have an expertise of machine learning algorithms, you have an expertise of NLP, you have an experience of, image processing, you have an experience in voice. So, voice mining and voice to text and things like that. So just put it out there, it gets a lot easier. And then also put your experience with respect to the stakeholders that you have handled so far. That's also very important, right? Have you worked in silos? Have you worked in interacting with kind of stakeholders? If you can mention that, that would also be very good, especially if you have been a person who have been client handling and then trying to move into data science, then mention that's really good.
Awesome. So thanks a lot. I think Nabil has put it up pretty nicely, that first is experience, who you typically are, showcasing your skills and capabilities, who are your stakeholders, and finally the achievements that you have made in life. So great job, Nabil. Good. I hope all of you are making notes. Okay. Yeah, I think we actually have crossed time by a big margin, but yes, I assume the audiences are making a lot of value add from what you're speaking. So let's continue for the last two questions, if you allow us. Matangi, I know I've eaten up your time a lot. So the last two questions, and what accounts for a great profile that PhonePe would definitely love to onboard?
Yeah, so as of now in PhonePe, I'm looking for people between 5 to 10 years of experience. 10 plus also is welcome. 5+ years of experience is what I'm looking at. 5+ years of core experience in machine learning. Like I said, if you have done initial bit of work on analytics and then you moved to machine learning, you're more than welcome to apply. And if you have a good sense of data, you understand business, you have worked on consumer-facing machine learning projects, which is more structured data mining, it's a big plus for me to consider.
Awesome.
And if you have a very good skills of communication and you're not afraid to sell your projects to stakeholders, you are a person who believes what you have done is right and can stand by it. Yeah, please do apply.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's quite an ask. You broke a lot of hearts here, but definitely, if you want to do internship, so what kind of internship opportunities can you offer?
At PhonePe, I'm not looking at internships at this point in time.
Okay, but anytime in the future, if they are looking, how
somebody with a spark, I'm ready to consider, but not right now. Not right now, but maybe a few months down the line. People can reach out to me if you have a spark. If you have done some of these projects that I said, right? Like if you have really solved a real project, and then you have done some hackathons and. You also have a great skill in algorithm and coding, then yes.
Okay, so how do people follow PhonePe's hiring trends? Where can they get the information?
I think there is a careers page in PhonePe, and they can also follow my LinkedIn.
Okay, so friends, two points. Please follow the careers page on PhonePe as well as follow Matangi on LinkedIn. Tons of things to learn, and Matangi is pretty popular in the space. She keeps speaking on different platforms. So I think a lot of things we can learn from her. So keep a watch on this space. Finally, any parting tips for folks? Okay, they come from different walks of life.
Yes.
They might be a fresher, they might be a manager, they might be a leader, they might be a startup CEO. They might have programming background, they may have non-programming background. So different walks of life, different people all trying to enter into the data science space. And a lot of companies actually looking out for people who are already experienced. So how do these people make their cut into this field?
See, it's going to be tough. That's one thing. I don't want to mince words there. But at the same time, if you're looking at data science into various career tracks, so for example, a lot of B2B organizations want people who have some level of data science skill, so they can acquire the data science skill from education institutes. And once they acquire it, then there are positions where they don't need to lose their experience, but can also contribute to data science. So things like a project manager in data science, a data science product manager, or there's no title as data science product manager, but product managers who kind of work heavily with data science. The client facing account manager kind of role, where data science forms a core part of the delivery, or a delivery manager. Those could be some of the positions that people can consider instead of starting their job as a data scientist, right? So that could be one way to look at it. Now, that could be easier move to a lot of people than trying to do a data scientist, because again, you're taking a pay cut, you're beginning, you're trying to prove yourself right from the scratch. If you're open to it, yes, then the way you could do it is again through networking. Doing that's the number one way you can get in. And number two is first ask yourself the question, do you even want to do this, right? So all that glitters may not be gold. So you may want to really ask, let's say you have 10 years of experience in sales and you want to start as a data scientist, really ask yourself that question, do you want to do it, right? Do you want to sit in a one place and code? And then, like I said, this requires tons of patience that you may have from sales, yes, but this is also going to be for a lot of time nothing moves, right? Only your screen and the code moves, and then you're running around people getting your models implemented. So it could also be frustrating from that perspective. So if you're ready for all the challenges and then being treated as a fresher in a junior level position, are you okay with that? Then if the answer is all yes, then you should do it in terms of figure out the right contact, see if you can move within your organization, and see if somebody will give you a real data project out there, and then start your journey from there.
Yeah, I think that goes for people with experience who want to start afresh as a data scientist.
Yes.
But for the ones who want to transition from a project manager in IT to a project manager in data science.
Yes. All you do is that's a simpler move, because you have a project management skill that you can kind of bank on. All you need to get is some understanding of how data science models work, how they get validated, how they get tested, how they get implemented, which is fairly easy to acquire. You do a bunch of data science courses, try a few hands at your data science problems, and then you could definitely try and apply for a job like that.
Awesome. So at different levels of IT, you have parallel levels in data science. And for the ones who want to directly dip down to the core data science roles, like you're starting afresh in data science, yes, you need to take a cut in your experience in terms of maybe salary or the role. But yes, overall, if you're making a parallel move from a program manager
just acquire the skill through online education, and then you're good.
So it's more about acquiring the skills of what data science really offers and applying the same thing in a data science project. So not a major transition for them, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's the more easier way out. So I think, friends, I am really sorry. I have extended Matangi's time from 45 minutes to 1 hour, 15 minutes now. Can we all give a big thank you to Matangi for her efforts that she's helping us today, I mean, her knowledge that she's spreading to all of us. So Matangi, a warm thank you from all of us. We express our gratitude for you to spend so much of your time.
Thank you so much. I see a lot of messages there. Thanks a lot.
So people are really happy. They learned a lot from you, and definitely any feedback, I'll definitely post it back to you. On the last parting note, so before we move on, any suggestions of what not to do? What to do we spoke, but what not to do?
What not to do for a person to get into the field? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
What not to do is see first the thing that not to do is see if you really fit into this field, right? You need to have the bent of mind to do this and the patience to do this, and it is not so glamorous also as it seems, right? Every day you're not going there and they're doing some decision and building a self-driving car, right? You're not doing that. You're doing a lot of juggling with the data. Yeah, some days it is interesting, some days it's equally frustrating. And when people don't get what you're doing, when you're trying to tell them this is a black box and people try to peep into the black box, it kind of gets a little tough. But this is part of the job. So like any other job, it has its ups and it has its definite downs. So you should be prepared for both of it. And you should see whether internally do you want to do this? Do you really, do you believe in data? Do you believe in a world that can be changed by data science? Then, you should get into this. That is so don't get into it because, it's cool. That is the not to do part of it.
Absolutely. I think that's a very honest confession from one of the most popular data scientists here in India. So Matangi, I truly appreciate that one line that you said, that do not get into it because it's a fad. So just because everybody is doing it, you have to jump into it. I really appreciate this point. So exploring ourselves, digging in a little bit around this field, trying to learn more about this, trying to acquire more knowledge around data science. And that's how I think one can really make a cut as to, or probably decide as to should I actually get into data science or not. Data science seems a lot of fancy stuff's going on the outside, but in the inside, definitely 60 to 80% you're just looking at on the data, looking at the data, trying to clean it up, trying to make it usable.
Yes.
Thank you, Matangi. I think we should stop the session now, else the questions continue. It'll never end. But again, a warm gratitude that we express from here, from the Insight community. On behalf of the Insight community, I express your warm gratitude. Thank you for sparing your Saturday time, and thank you for helping us learn a little bit more than what we already knew from before. So all the credit goes to you. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Sachin. Thanks for organizing this. It was great interacting with you.
Sure. Thank you. I think I'll just thank you on behalf of the entire audience here. Sure. 300 plus audience for so long time. I mean, it's really exciting. I've seen people sit for some time, but almost everybody is sitting here even now. So thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. So friends, we are done for today. We got really good insights from Matangi, and I hope all of you have gained sufficient information and knowledge. If you have any feedbacks from Matangi or any information that you would like to share with Matangi, you can drop us a mail and we'll collate and forward to her. And we look forward to the next expert talk, and let's hope we can get Matangi on board to Insight also someday. If not in terms of employee, but definitely in terms of a mentor. So we would love to see you again, Matangi.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Matangi. Thank you, friends. You may terminate the session. We are done for the day. Thank you.